BJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest Evan Halbert from Portland Gamecraft talking about a game that I can barely pronounce, but that from the pictures looks really cool. Metbetoch. Am I saying it right, Evan?
It's very, very close.
How would you say it?
I say Metbetoch, but the guy whose world it's set in is British but lives in France and speaks French. So well, he does. The correct pronunciation, we will never know. There's no way to know. Because it's a fantasy world that might be French, it might be English.
What's the story? Yeah. What is I know that it's like his own world.
We don't know.
Exactly. What's the story of Metbetoch? How does it play? Where did the idea come from? In fact, I'm kind of curious. Is this a game where they brought you into the world, or you already had a game and had to kind of fit it in there? How'd that go?
So I started working on this as like my magnum opus port of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 from the video game to the board game, which is one of my very favorite video games ever, as is for a lot of people too, at least in my age range. And I was shopping it. I had worked on it for like 4 or 5 years, and I was shopping it around, and it took so many different twists and turns over those years. Like instead of troop, like you carry an army around and you build up your cities. Like we skinnied that down because I had a publisher that had a D&D license at the time, and I was like, oh, so we'll turn it into like small parties, right? You have like a main character and some NPCs, and so I skinnied it down to that, and then and then the publisher lost that D&D license, and we were like, nope, never mind. And so then I sat on it for another year or two. And then finally, Chris Wazoo, who has this role-playing game fantasy, like kind of gritty fantasy setting that he's had for like 20 years. He's been putting out these RPG books. He was like, hey, you can make it a part of my world. And I was like, that sounds awesome. So we did that. So it's shifted a lot from its original conception. It's no longer an attempt to port Heroes of Might and Magic 3. In fact, there's another board game that does that. So I'm not doing the same thing as I used to be doing. But basically, we took on all of his lore and monsters and the way his world kind of works, and we kind of put that into the game and then reworked all the mechanics, because if you have a new theme, you got to rework mechanics. Otherwise, it's just a skin. So then here we are. It's coming along.
I see some tiles and I see some food.
Oh
yeah. What's the story? What's the mechanics of the game?
So Metbetoch. Yeah. So Metbetoch basically was in his little empire corner of the world that he's mainly focuses on. Metbetoch was like the main city of high magic, and they were like trying to figure out the secrets of life, and they caused a big cataclysm. This is like 158 years ago, and it caused all these issues for the entire continent. And then they started building back up, and like 28 years ago, the empire was like, you guys are getting too powerful and we need to stop you. And so they went and raised the city and outlawed that kind of magic. And so now throughout the kingdom, basically, with some exceptions, like magic is more rare, it's not as powerful. And so you play an adventurer with your little party, searching the ancient ruins of Metbetoch, the city of ruins. And you're going in and looking for, all these ancient magic and powerful magic items, and trying to figure out, what kind of cool little storylines may or may not unfold before you as you kind of search through the hex map and reveal things and level up your character.
So cooperative?
Or no, it's not PvP, but it is competitive. Basically, you're trying to do the best job of finding cool things as well as searching the city, which kind of starts turning into an area control mechanism, where you're not really controlling the city, but you're doing a better job than other players of searching the city. And then kind of one of the hooks of this game that's different is as you level up, every experience you have, you reveal a new power on your player board, or an upgrade to your power on your player board.
Well,
and that marker goes down onto the board as your area control.
Oh, it goes on the board as your area control.
Yeah. Yeah, so you reveal an upgrade on your character, and you put that out on the board as your area control marker.
How much did you work with Chris before you actually even put a cube or a dice or anything like that? How much did you need to know about the world? Did that kind of drive where you thought the mechanics were going to go?
Yes. Yeah, a lot, actually. We basically stripped it down to almost totally restarting, even discussing basic mechanisms. Aside from, we knew we wanted to walk around a map, we knew we wanted a hero with some NPCs, and we wanted items and spells. We knew that. But then from there, it's like, where do you go with it? And we actually stripped it all the way back. It's had so many different mechanisms over the years. But to make it true to his IP and his setting and what we were trying to accomplish with this game, which essentially is we wanted that fantasy 4X heroes, quests, combat, items, spells experience, but without the crippling downtime that usually entails. So I'm gonna go make a sandwich, like we kind of wanted to cut that out. So this is essentially our like ode to that experience without that downtime.
Yeah, when a game designer can give me like a really big experience, but in micro turns, Jason Dinger, for one of the designers over here, he's just fantastic at that. His games have these just little tiny micro turns, but they have a big giant effect, big decisions on the gameplay. So I do love, as everybody knows, I love the T games, and many of the T games, sometimes somebody can go downstairs and go make a drink or get a sandwich while you're taking all these. Yeah, and Toledo, I'm telling you, there's you can have a turn where it's like, oh yeah, BGG Con, we need to get that done. But you could take these super long turns in Toledo, which I love. That's the fun, because by the time you finish, it's like you feel like, oh, I don't care if I won this game. I just did something amazing,
just did that.
Right? And then you go, wait, I came in 4th place. That's not so good. But
it was so combo-tastic.
It's true. But I rather whenever you get these micro turns that just drive it. So Verlin, Steve, did Evan did upstairs or downstairs Evan share this with you guys at ChuckCon this summer at all? Or
no, we didn't play this one.
Any recollection of this one.
We played Grand Meteora, I think,
which I played last summer, which was great.
Yeah.
And I played twice now.
Yeah.
So you couldn't show it off this summer, I guess. It wasn't quite ready.
This might have been something that was.
I had it with me. Yes, I think that may have cut us off a little bit. Although that was such a lovely evening.
It was a nice evening. We had a terrible storm. Yeah, and then we lost power.
Had a power outage for like 3 hours.
Nice up at the lake, but we sat in the dark for a while and hung out rather than playing the next game in line.
Yeah,
it was actually quite delightful.
It was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
The pictures that y'all sent from ChuckCon were just amazing, man.
We had a great time.
Really
and that gluten-free pizza, I don't know how we made it taste so dang good.
It was incredible.
Jake,
Mom and I were just talking about it the other day.
Oh my gosh.
Jake knows a thing or two about pizza.
Did he bring the little hot honey?
Oh yeah, we had these
so,
things.
Yeah.
They're
so ridiculous.
So Metbetoch, you're working with Chris Loiseau, you said, from France?
Yep.
Because I don't know this company, SBG, I think it's called.
Yeah, Serious Business Games Edition. He basically he quit his job and had a little money set aside, and he's like, I'm going to be a board game publisher, and this is happening, and I have, enough funds to try it for a little while. And that's exactly what he did. So he's getting a whole raft of games going. He's got his like lighter games section to get in with distributors, and then he's doing his heavier games. I want that crust recipe, right, Kelly? And so he's making a real go of it. And the cool, every publisher has their own unique, benefits and challenges of working with them. And one of the really cool things about working with Chris is he cares about everything that he's working on. Like he knows, like he is in it, he's invested. Because literally, like his company does rely on every single game right now, He doesn't have an evergreen. He doesn't have, he just started. So like every game for him is like, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be amazing. And so when a publisher just cares that much, it's really fun to work with them on that project, and see, and to watch his face light up as we're bringing stuff from his role-playing universe to life. And, as we played through at ESSEN, and to see him like, kind of like a school kid again, like excited about the things that were happening and the way that the thematics were coming through in the gameplay. And I don't know, he's a lot of fun to work with.
That's an interesting one, because you ended up kind of helping to develop and deliver a baby of his in this case. So this is like, since it's so his world,
right?
I can see why he'd want to really be invested in it. But when you bring stuff to him, then you're sitting down and playing it, and he goes, "Oh, you did that with this thing of mine." That's got to be wonderful to really have that experience.
Yeah, attitude than you might expect. He's like, you know what? Like, this is the setting, but I have never really delved into what exactly is in Metbetoch. Like, it's in the world, it has this history, and we know certain people and certain things that happened. But aside from that, you can kind of do whatever you want in there.
Great. You had the freedom to kind of flesh out the world a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's been really fun.
That's very generous. That's very generous in a partner there.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally we show him a thing, and he's like, "That wouldn't really happen." And we're like, "Okay." We're like, "Okay, fair enough."
It's kind of hard to go against the designer. He knows the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time, that's kind of, Steve Bertle, that's kind of cool, where you're able to take your own experiences and flesh them out, because you obviously want the mechanics to fit the theme of the world, but sometimes the theme of the world drives it back, right? That is interesting. That is Metbetoch. Do we have a timeline on when we should see this?
Our best guess is probably we're going to do another 6-8 months of like real, like in-depth design and setting and campaign stuff. And, like obviously the basics are done, but really dig in, make another 150 encounter cards and, like really kind of finish everything and make sure we've, knocked off all of the hanging chads, so to speak, on election night.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
bam.
Deep cut.
Knocked off all the hanging chads. I know, right? Ugh.
Yes.
And make sure that it's kind of as smooth as we want, and it delivers on that promise of a 4X fantasy exploration game where you're not like, oh my gosh, it's been forever since my last turn, and still brings to light the IP of the of what's going on in it, but still familiar enough where it's not like, what the heck is this?
So every other game that I played from you has some interactivity. I mean, the Christmas game you and I played together, of course, the Great Meteora, and of course After the Empire. I mean, there's a lot of, you're either blocking or actually doing things to each other. Is that going to be a part of the Metbetoch world?
I do always, like, anytime you make a big setting game like this, you always want to do everything, right? You want a campaign mode, you want a co-op mode, you want a solo mode, you want a PvP mode, you want to do everything. And we're trying not to do that. Because most of the time when you do that, none of them are great. All of them are fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we want to make a more honed in experience great as possible, at least to the best of our experience and ability. But I do definitely still want to play around with PvP and co-op and little elements as we're able to, just to see if we can make it work really well. But generally speaking, this is more Euro in its player interaction.
Okay.
Right. I'm taking over that area control that you were counting on for end-game scoring. I'm buying that item card that I know you really wanted and needed. That kind of thing is more. I'm hiring that NPC that would have worked perfectly to make your ambush strategy work really well. Sorry, I'll take the crossbowman. Thank you. So it's very Euro in its interaction.
Evan.
But
one of the favorite games in the Chucks is we all play the Castle of Burgundy a lot. And if you play it a lot, you start to realize that, wow, if you just play your board, you're going to do okay. You really have to know what the other players are taking.
Yes.
Not necessarily hate drafting. Yes. I mean, sometimes sometimes if you know the other person is going to get that yellow token, that tile that's going to get them 12 points, you have to draft it, right?
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, that's
what you can and can't wait for too.
Oh my gosh, I thought I was pretty good at that game.
Yeah.
Not
right.
Rough experience.
Yeah. Well, I was in a game with Jay Bell and Jake, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not quite as good as I thought.
Yeah, those two are Castle of Burgundy sharks, though.
But he makes up for it in Grand Austria Hotel, where he and his wife regularly stomp me.
Oh, is that your game, Evan?
That is the game with the three of us.
Enjoy it.
Evan and Jenna.
Jenna has been on a winning streak. I finally broke it on our last game, but
she's been slaughtering us.
She's crushing us. It's ridiculous. And I bring it up, at dinner, and she's like,
I'm convinced
I made some good moves. I don't know.
I have proven that I don't know what I'm doing in the game, because I could literally score a ton of points, come out first place, and the next time I play, score 50 points. I mean, just no clue what I'm doing. So clearly it's luck. I just every 10th game you just blindly fall through the right strategy and get the right cards.
Yeah. You're pastry mashing.
That's it. Just pastry mashing. Yeah. I've got all the wrong guests coming into my hotel. I'm not paying any of my people, and I'm losing points left and right. So
I don't have any money. I don't have any blue rooms open.
You know what's funny is I've never actually played that one live. I've probably played it 20 times on whatever the services are, but because I always forget which one's that one's on.
That one's on Yukata.
Yeah, Yukata.
We play on Yukata.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've never.
I will say it didn't actually click for me until I played it live.
Yeah, it's one of those games.
And then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
One
of those games.
Yep.
Well, that's Metbetoch. Hopefully, I'm saying it right, Chris. I apologize out there in Europe if I'm saying it wrong. But hey, it's Chris's world, right? And we're all just living in it. So,
and if we say it enough, Metbetoch, if everybody says Metbetoch, then that's what it becomes, because there just aren't that many people that say the word, and whatever gets used the most becomes the new vernacular. So
Metbetoch. PJ from Game Gumbo. I've got my guest here, Evan Halbert, designer of After the Empire. We're talking